Well may we say, God save the Queen. Because nothing will save the Governor-General.
Gough Whitlam opens his campaign to become Prime Minister of Australia late Tuesday, November 11. A job he's been dismissed from just 4 hours before.
The proclamation which you have just heard read by the Governor-General's official secretary was countersigned Malcolm Fraser. Who will undoubtedly go down in Australian history from Remembrance Day 1975 as Kerr's Kerr.
What lies ahead is 30,000 miles of air travel and over 30 rallies in every capital city, plus vital country centres.
In Queensland, the Premier appointed a non-Labor person to succeed Labor. Give Labor a fair go this time. Give democracy a fair go.
To come is 4 weeks of oratory, of heat, emotion, energy, of opinion polls, of flexible campaign strategy. And Gough Whitlam, aged 60, still his party's most saleable commodity in this election campaign, very carefully lays the groundwork for his thrust even before he steps out of Canberra. He meets the press.
Tape's rolling.
And the Governor-General is no longer the ogre.
It's Mr. Fraser's conduct that during the campaign must be identified and understood, and I am confident, when identified and understood, will be seen to be utterly unconstitutional, improper and unprecedented.
With Canberra solidly behind him, Whitlam's first major rally is Brisbane, and it sets a pattern for the next 2 weeks. 14,000 supporters in Bielka land, alternately angry and enthusiastic. And Whitlam the demagogue feeds them.
The only decent thing for Mr. Fraser to do was to tell the Governor-General officially, because Mr. Fraser knew. But by the time Mr. Scholes had his appointment to tell the Governor-General what the view of the House of Representatives was, the Governor-General's official secretary was reading from the Parliament steps the proclamation dissolving both houses. It was then too late. The coup d'etat had succeeded. The putsch had come off.
In those early rallies, the money pours in unchecked. Another unique facet of the campaign. Wherever possible, Bob Hawke is to appear beside the leader. Solidarity the keynote. And Bill Hayden, he's either the best treasurer since Chifley, or who do you want, Lynch or Hayden? A 1,000 miles away and 4 days later, Gough fires the first shot in a swinging Labor seat. Race Mathews' Melbourne electorate of Casey. At Norwood School, 5,000 stamp their feet and urge him on to victory. Outside, one man cries, "Fraser and Kerr, the F and K of politics." This is still the clear issue from Labor's point of view, and Whitlam plays it skillfully with edited highlights of his Black Tuesday.
Ladies and gentlemen, I was coming to this meeting with very mixed feelings because I couldn't watch on television. I had to be content with listening on radio to the usurper disclosing the economic state of the nation. Now, 2 days ago, we see the allegation that Bill Hayden had stolen some Treasury documents. But of course that was a bit of exaggeration, and on the steps of Parliament House today, Mr Fraser climbed down from that allegation. When I had an appointment with the Governor-General at 1 o'clock last Tuesday, I, rather foolishly I suppose, 3 hours before had said I'd be calling on him. I told him what I'd be recommending to him, and I said, I'll get it in writing and bring it out as soon as you can see me. He said, oh, well, it'll take 3 hours. Come out there. I've got a Remembrance Day ceremony in the meantime. So I went out at 1 o'clock, and he never heard anything I had to say, and he never took my documents, but he gave me one of his. It was 5 pages long, and it was already signed. And the gist of it was that my commission was terminated because the budget wasn't through. So I said, I left. No use hanging. And in the meantime, Mr Fraser went out there with some documents dissolving the House. Now, it'd be rather amazing if in the ivory tower or the gilded cage of Yarralumna you didn't know what was going on in Parliament on that day. But anyway, the Speaker couldn't officially tell the Governor-General. Mr Fraser knew, but apparently he didn't tell him. He was too embarrassed to tell the Governor-General that the House said they had no confidence in him.
With more than a week already behind him, and only 2 days before his official campaign opening in Sydney and Melbourne, Gough Whitlam heads for Cairns. He almost always enjoys a special rapport with his press entourage. This trip is no exception. Most are from the Canberra Gallery and know him well. For the first time since his dismissal, he's allowed to take them with him on his BAC 111. It's to his disadvantage in this election that he no longer calls the shots, and staff cutbacks for former Labor ministers are among the first actions of the caretaker Fraser regime. Privileges go. Staff who are public servants have just been told they can't travel at public expense. Their overtime is cut off, plus little things that nickel, like subsidies for work calls on private telephones. But they stick with him. Speechwriters, private and press secretaries and others. 8 staff are with him wherever he goes.
Mr. Gough Whitlam.
And so to Cairns and the electorate of Leichhardt, an electorate he'll probably lose. Yet at a dusk rally, 3,000 come to see him. It's described locally as the biggest thing there since World War II. And Fraser and Joe share another verbal lashing.
But it's the first time that the burglar has been appointed as the caretaker. And on the 13th of December, I've no doubt that the people of Australia, the people of Queensland, the people of Leichhardt will purge the contemptible action by the Queensland state government and appoint a Labor man to succeed a Labor man.
At a time like this, he's only too pleased to suffer the little children.
They want to accept the voice of the people.
Mr. Whitlam.
And from the day that Gough Whitlam became Prime Minister, they decided that they would take every possible step to stop this.
We want Gough! We want Gough! We want Gough! We want Gough! We want Gough!
3,000 in Cairns becomes 30,000 in Sydney's domain. This time he's flanked by most of his senior ministers and the inevitable Hawke. It's his Sydney campaign official opening, and he gets the biggest barrage of press and TV cameras since the Pope's tour. The BBC, CBS, a German television crew from Hong Kong, and even Denmark has its own string of cameramen.
Give parliamentary democracy a fair go. Give Australia...
Whitlam has retained the same security men as when he was Prime Minister. There are never less than 3 of them, and they're never more than a stride or 2 away. Politics is never without irony, yet even Whitlam seems momentarily oblivious and shares the platform with 2 of his 3 treasurers. It's been one of the criticisms levelled against him that he had to sack Crean. As the rally opens, His third treasurer, Jim Cairns, is a few miles away at Roseland Shopping Centre, signing autographs with Junie Morosi. In Melbourne the same night, 7,000 cram Festival Hall for the live 4-camera opening campaign broadcast. And the preparations are literally last minute.
Before we begin, belt up!
As in the past few campaigns, the actors and entertainers are out in force again on the Labor platform. People like Bellbird's Terry Norris and singer Shirley Jacobs. She's been singing for Labor since '66.
We want Gough and we want Labour, time to do yourself a favour. Fair go now is what Australians say. Let's go ahead the Labour way. Malcolm's campaign, old school blazer, Murdoch, Packer, Fairfax, Fraser, some quadrilla, listen to them brave. Though people want the Labour way.
The warm-up hardly seems necessary.
The Premier of South Australia, Don Dunstan. Our Federal President, Bob Hawke.
No Blacktown this year. Victoria's the stronghold now. But the opening gambit has that old familiar ring.
Men and women of Australia, the whole future of Australian democracy is in your hands. The decision you make on the 13th of December goes far beyond who shall govern Australia for a few months or for a few years.
The half-hour national broadcast doesn't show the scenes of hysteria that follow. One could imagine Gough Whitlam walking out of Festival Hall, thinking victory is his. Campaign headquarters in John Curtin House, Canberra, are a long way from the hustings. No electoral hysteria here. Work is mainly voluntary. There are press facilities, program monitors and the other necessary tools of propaganda. All that is the political vogue of the 70s. Stickers, badges, T-shirts, even a daily news sheet, the Daily Constitutional. 30,000 copies are printed a day. David Combe, National Secretary, masterminding only his second national campaign, spends his time between Sydney and Melbourne, Sensing the mood of the electorate from so remote an eyrie is in itself an art. But Labor has its own sample polls, and there's plenty of feedback.
One, of course, does talk to a number of candidates who, because of their reputation for accuracy in gauging the mood of the electorate, are able to give a proper feel of how the electorate is reacting. In addition, you get, you're talking all the time with state campaign directors, so you get their feelings. They in turn reflect the feelings of people out in the field, but quite frankly, one has to be very selective about the subjective information that one relies upon. Otherwise, one will be panicked very quickly.
Presumably, one thing you do have to be very careful about is the sort of enthusiasm that may well not be justified, that some people are coming to you quite consistently and saying, look, everything's terrific, everything's going to be fine.
I remember people who in 1966 told me at a time I'd decided that we were going to lose 3 seats in South Australia. We in fact ultimately lost 4. But some people came to me and said, look, there's just no doubt we're going to win seats in this election. One does have to be careful about how one judges the euphoria, but also how one judges the moroseness.
And a certain moroseness does start to develop behind the scenes as the first bad polls for Labor hit the streets. Combe says that with the exception of ANOP, interpretation of the polls are a deliberate attempt to panic Labor.
Yeah, there's a propensity to panic in the party, but the more rational people who are at the centre of the campaign, of course, are far too experienced to be panicked by such crude attempts by our opponents and their friends in the newspapers to panic us.
But precisely what's happened when you talk about there was a definite attempt to panic you?
Well, the publication of poll figures which clearly couldn't be right, just absolutely couldn't be right, and which are demonstrably wrong. The sample size was half the normal sample size. There are all sorts of unanswered questions. I mean, in one poll, for example, the Morgan poll, Mr Morgan would have us believe that in one and the same poll there had been a swing of quite tremendous proportions to the Liberal Party, and in the same poll, when it was published in full in the Bulletin, it showed a dramatic shift in satisfaction away from Mr Fraser. Now, it's inconceivable to anybody who knows anything about polls and polling that you could have at one and the same time a movement towards a party and a movement away from the leader of that party.
Ladies and gentlemen, you have too many elections in South Australia.
Even the mood of the rallies is changing noticeably. In Adelaide, Whitlam makes his second appearance in a week. The first is tumultuous, the second restrained.
You can't have the position where the Senate, which under the Constitution is expressly prevented from initiating any money bills, expressly prevented from amending any money bills, is able just to bring about an election for the House of Representatives by refusing even to have a vote on a money bill. Ladies and gentlemen, it's not just the Labor government, it is the fate of any government which hereafter is elected to the Australian House of Representatives with a majority, which is at stake on this occasion. If you're to elect a government, you expect it to be able to govern for the 3 years for which you elected.
The numbers are still there, but they're not so demonstrative. The Whitlam camp read this as a good sign. They say it's what 72 and 74 were all about. They've come to listen. It could also be that they've heard it all before, that they want something new. Brisbane the next day is the same. For Graham Freudenberg, the ghost of Whitlam, the man who writes his words, the pattern at campaign time is familiar. Go out among the people and listen, and smoke, and gauge the mood and smoke, and go back to the typewriter.
We had to put the bill through twice in the House of Representatives, and it was...
At least for the Whitlam band, the charges of incitement to violence have proved empty. At the rallies, it's been almost non-existent, despite the intensity of feeling.
Which I can verify.
Keep the pressure on.
Bring sanity back to the
We'll take another call. Your name and address, please, and then your question.
Hello?
Yes?
Deborah Green here. 94 Forest Way, French's Forest.
It's now 2 weeks and 3 days since Mr Whitlam was sacked as Prime Minister, and his message is still basically the same. When are he and his party going to demonstrate the flexibility that won them the unwinnable election in '74. Both leaders have their so-called policy speeches behind them, and it's now, with less than 2 weeks to go, that Mr Whitlam foreshadows a change in emphasis. There's been some change in the mood of the people who are attending the rallies just in the last few days. They've become quieter. Is that good or bad?
Oh, there's just as many people turning out, and they are listening more. They are very much interested in what you have to say. I've never known people to pay so much attention. But also what I do notice, and I've never seen it before, people come and press money or cheques into your hand. Or that's never happened before. And it's happened in every state and both territories, because I've been right round the country now. And also, to a greater extent than previously, they give you a sheet of paper with some slogans or some ideas or some calculations which they think may be useful to you.
You don't feel that you're running out of things to say, that you are becoming too repetitive, despite the fact that the issues you feel are important?
Oh, well, there wouldn't be an election for the House of Representatives and the whole of the Senate. There would only have been an election for half the Senate only, and certainly the first election for senators for the two territories, but for this stalling, this strike by the Senate on the budget, which had never occurred before. That's why there is an election. So obviously it is an important issue. But I think from now on, now that Mr Anthony and Mr Fraser have made their policy speeches, said all that they can say, the vaguenesses and the omissions will bulk very largely for the remaining 2 weeks. You know, people say, why didn't they mention anything about women? Or why didn't they mention anything about children? Why didn't they mention about the environment? Take things where they were completely silent. And there's so many other such instances where they're silent or where they're so vague as to rouse suspicions.
Now into his second last week, that change in emphasis has happened. At Rockdale, Whitlam hammers his opposition on the lack of available fact in their economic stance, and he compares economic performance. He's off and running again.
Billy Snedden's budget 3 years ago provided $439.3 million for education programs. Bill Hayden's budget this year provides $1,908.2 million for education programs. You'll see the expenditure by the Australian government on education in the 3 years that we've been in so far has gone up to almost 4.5 or 5 times what it was under the Liberals.
This has been his 10th campaign, 4 as deputy leader and now 6 as leader.
We want Gough and we want Labour, time to do yourself a favour.
It's hard not to get the feeling, seeing him astride the hustings, that no matter what the outcome this time, there will be more campaigns ahead for Gough Whitlam.
We want Gough and we want Labour, time to do